Do you know what's more frustrating than watching your favorite team make terrible trades? Watching them completely ignore a treasure trove of potential that's sitting right in front of them, just waiting to be discovered. Because that's exactly what's happening with the Toronto Maple Leafs right now, and August 15th represents either the biggest opportunity they'll have all year or the most devastating missed chance in recent memory. While everyone's focused on blockbuster trades and free agency signings, there's a secret draft happening right under our noses. NCAA free agents, players whose rights are about to expire, are about to flood the market, and some of these names could become the next generation of NHL stars. The kicker? Most teams are treating this deadline like an afterthought, which means smart organizations can strike gold while everyone else is sleeping. But here's where it gets infuriating for Leafs fans. Toronto has a recent history of letting exactly these kinds of players slip through their fingers, only to watch them develop into valuable NHL contributors elsewhere. Remember Dakota Joshua? The same player they just traded a fourth-round pick to reacquire after happily dealing him away years ago? That's not just a mistake. It's a pattern that reveals everything wrong with how this organization evaluates young talent. The August 15th deadline. Hockey's best-kept secret August 15th isn't just another date on the NHL calendar. It's the deadline that separates the visionary organizations from the short-sighted ones. This is when players who have graduated or left college must be signed by the team that drafted them, or their rights expire, and they become free agents available to any team willing to take a chance. Think about the implications of that for a moment. These aren't players who failed to make it in professional hockey. These are prospects who have developed their skills in top-tier NCAA programs, many of whom have improved dramatically since they were originally drafted. They're entering the market with 4 or 5 years of high-level development under their belts, and they're available to any team smart enough to recognize their potential. The Justin Schultz and Jimmy Vesey frenzies from previous years proved that this market can produce legitimate NHL contributors. Neither player became a superstar, but both had long, productive careers that provided tremendous value relative to their acquisition cost. 4 prospect-starved organizations like the Toronto Maple Leafs, who currently sit 7 contracts below their maximum allowable limit. These players represent lottery tickets that cost almost nothing to purchase. The Leafs' current roster situation makes this opportunity even more attractive. With Nick Robertson, Dennis Hildebrand, and Cedric Villeneuve still needing to be re-signed, Toronto has the contractual flexibility to take chances on multiple prospects without affecting their cap situation or organizational depth chart. The Dakota Joshua lesson. Why history keeps repeating? Let's examine the Dakota Joshua situation more closely because it perfectly encapsulates everything that's wrong with how the Leafs approach prospect development. Joshua was drafted in the 5th round, showed promise in the organization system, but Toronto happily dealt him to the St. Louis Blues so they could sign him before the August 15th deadline. At the time, the move seemed reasonable. Joshua's numbers weren't spectacular, and the Leafs didn't see a clear path to the NHL for him in their system. Fast forward to the day, and the Leafs just paid a 4th-round pick to bring him back after he developed into exactly the kind of player they needed all along. This isn't about damning the organization for one decision. It's about recognizing a pattern of undervaluing development time and overvaluing immediate production. The Leafs have consistently shown they'd rather give roster spots to aging veterans than take chances on young players who might need time to reach their potential. The Joshua situation serves as a perfect reminder that the Leafs should be using their resources, whether NHL or AHL contracts, to get better looks at players they think could fit their organizational culture and system. Instead of letting these prospects walk away for nothing, they should be creating opportunities for extended evaluation periods. The targets, hidden gems waiting to be discovered. Jack Hughes, yes, the other one, represents exactly the kind of high-upside gamble that smart organizations make. The 21-year-old center from Boston University finished his college career with 25 points in 40 games, including 7 goals. While those numbers might not jump off the page, consider the context. Hughes was a 2nd-round pick playing in a deep Boston University program where ice time and opportunities were limited. Sometimes the best prospects aren't the ones who dominated college hockey, they're the ones who showed steady improvement while playing in competitive environments. Hughes' draft pedigree suggests he has the raw tools to succeed at higher levels, and his college experience in a winning program could translate well to professional hockey. Matt Capone presents a similar opportunity with nearly identical production to Hughes in a comparable role. At 5'11" and 22 years old, he might not have the same draft pedigree, 7th round versus 2nd round, but he offers center depth that the Leafs desperately need in their system. Jack Barr immediately stands out as a potential defensive specialist who could fit perfectly into Toronto's development philosophy. The 6'2" right-shot defenseman from Harvard represents the kind of smart, defensively responsible player that championship teams are built around. More importantly, Barr played for the Chicago Steel, where current Marlies GM Ryan Hardy previously served as general manager. This connection could be crucial. Hardy's familiarity with Barr's development, character, and potential fit within an organization could provide the Leafs with insider knowledge that other teams don't possess. Sometimes the best signings aren't about superior scouting, they're about leveraging existing relationships and institutional knowledge. If size is the determining factor, Alex Gagne from the University of New Hampshire offers an intriguing alternative. At 6'5", he provides the kind of physical presence that modern NHL teams covet, and his 17 points in 35 games last season suggest he's not just a purely defensive player. The statistical standout, Cameron Berg's breakout potential. Cameron Berg might be the most intriguing name on this entire list, and his story perfectly illustrates why teams should be paying attention to this market. The 23-year-old center from the University of North Dakota scored 2 goals in his first 3 AHL games for the Bridgeport Sound Tigers after posting 22 points in 26 games during his final college season. Those AHL numbers, while limited, suggest Berg's offensive skills can translate to higher levels of competition. His previous season totals of 37 points in 40 games demonstrate consistent offensive production, and at 6'0" and 192 pounds, he possesses the size and strength to compete professionally. What makes Berg particularly attractive is his goal-scoring ability. In a free agent class dominated by playmakers and setup men, Berg offers rare goal-scoring potential. The Leafs system has plenty of skilled passers, but lacks pure finishers, making Berg exactly the kind of complementary piece they need. Dominic James from the University of Minnesota Duluth offers similar offensive upside with more versatility, having played both center and wing during his college career. This positional flexibility could make him more valuable in a development system that emphasizes adaptability. Justin Janik represents the ultimate breakout candidate. The 21-year-old Notre Dame product exploded for 34 points in 38 games last season after never exceeding 16 points in his first 3 college seasons. This dramatic improvement suggests he's figured something out about his game that could translate to professional success. The bloodline factor. Red Savage's untapped potential. Red Savage carries one of the most recognizable names from the 2021 draft, and his hockey bloodline runs deep. As the son of Brian Savage, a longtime Montreal Canadian, Red has hockey intelligence embedded in his DNA. His 27 points in 38 games for Michigan State during his junior year showed legitimate offensive potential, though injuries limited his production in the most recent season. Sometimes the best prospects are the ones who faced adversity and learned from it. Savage's injury-shortened season might have actually benefited his development by teaching him what it takes to compete through physical challenges. At 22 years old, he's still young enough to realize his potential while being mature enough to handle the professional adjustment. Jackson Coons presents another intriguing option for teams looking for power forward projects. At 6'3" and 227 pounds, he possesses the size and strength that Brad Treliving has consistently targeted throughout his management career. While his numbers declined in 2024-25, his physical tools and previous production suggest he could develop into a valuable bottom-six contributor. The organizational philosophy. Why this matters more then you think the most important aspect of this entire discussion isn't about any individual player. It's about organizational philosophy and how teams approach talent acquisition. The Leafs' approach to NCAA free agents reveals everything about their commitment to development versus their desire for immediate impact. These players shouldn't be viewed as rejects that weren't good enough for their original teams. The NCAA system is complex, and many of these prospects are choosing free agency specifically because it gives them more control over their professional destinations. They've completed their education, developed their skills, and now want to find organizations that offer the best opportunities for continued growth. The Leafs' current situation makes them potentially attractive to these players. With only one draft pick in the top 100 selections next year and just 3 picks total in the entire draft, Toronto needs to find alternative ways to stock their prospect pipeline. NCAA free agents represent a cost-effective method of adding depth and potential to their system. The championship connection. Why this could matter: championship teams aren't built solely through first-round draft picks and expensive free agent signings. They're built through the accumulation of value at every level of the organization. The teams that consistently compete for Stanley Cups are the ones that find NHL contributors in unexpected places and develop them into valuable pieces. If the Leafs are truly committed to building a championship organization, they need to start thinking like one. That means taking chances on players who might not immediately contribute but could develop into valuable assets over time. It means using their organizational resources to evaluate talent rather than simply hoping the obvious choices work out. The next few days leading up to August 15th will reveal whether the Leafs have learned from their past mistakes or whether they're destined to repeat the same patterns that have limited their success. The players are there. The opportunity is real. The question is whether Toronto's management has the vision to recognize it. This isn't just about signing a few college players. It's about changing how the organization thinks about talent acquisition and development. The teams that dominate the next decade will be the ones that master this approach today. So, what do you think? Are the Leafs finally ready to embrace this opportunity, or are we about to watch them miss another chance to build sustainable depth? Which of these players would you target if you were running the organization? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this deadline could shape the franchise's future in ways that won't become apparent for years.